Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. During your work experiences while working as a manager, tell me about a time when you demonstrated that you have the leadership ability and skills.
Well, actually, working as a manager, we kind of do that every day, all day, every day. It's part of our job. But I guess to get more specific, let's just start with take for example a restaurant manager. We have to make floor plans. We make floor plans, putting people in certain places, sections of the restaurant to take care of patrons that come into the restaurant. I call it putting aces in their holes, aces in their places. Some people are stronger than other people when it comes to being servers, and so stronger servers you want to put in those more dynamic sections that have a lot of turnover or a lot of people that come into those sections. And then you typically have some people that aren't quite as strong, so you put those a little farther behind. At the same time, you want to make people still feel equal. So teeter tottering between doing that and making people feel welcome and feel like they're important to their job, and still making the ones that do actually outshine feel appreciated for their progress is something that we do actually every day.
Okay. Describe the process you typically follow to make a decision about what stories make a newscast.
This actually has quite a few variables involved. National, local, what's important to society, what's going on. A lot of things are involved when it comes to picking newscasts. Typically, you would have national stuff over local stuff, but there are certain scenarios where other things take precedence. One thing I can remember in particular when I was working for a TV station, a helicopter actually hit a tower, and the tower came crashing down, and it was actually here in Waco, and it was a big deal because the lights weren't working on the tower at the time, and so that was one of the main issues that caused the helicopter to not see the tower and crash into it. Now, the other issue, though, is the TV station actually had reported it that the light was out to the companies that were supposed to detail all that information. I remember when picking the stories, there was also a lot of national news at the time, but I chose to go with this local story above the national stories because, in my mind, it actually took precedence uh, over the national story.
Okay. Describe a time when working as a manager that you proactively identified and addressed an issue at your company.
We can go back to the restaurant business on that one. Worked in a steakhouse. One thing that always happens is steaks get overcooked. Um, Trying to identify and fixing that problem before it makes it to a table is something that I actually take pride in. Um, we try to fix problems before they happen. So one of my favorite positions in the restaurant as a manager is called Expo. You stand at the window, everything as it's coming out of the window, you check it over, you put toppings, you prep it the way it's supposed to. You make sure it's done the way it's supposed to be done. Now, this also means rareness to well done on steaks. So you want to check each steak as it's coming out to make sure it's cooked properly. And a lot of times you'll have stuff that's not cooked and you'll have to send it back, and you're fixing that problem before it makes it to the table. Now, there are times when that doesn't happen and it makes it to the table anyway. In those situations, you go out there, you try and explain to the people that you try to identify these problems and catch them before, but nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, and so all you can do there is ask for their forgiveness and try and do something to make up for the mistake and just move on.
Okay. Can you tell what kind of knowledge you have with basic Office computer programs such as Windows and Office?
I actually have an associate's degree in computer maintenance technology. I have a very technical background. So when it comes to programs, not just Microsoft programs, but Linux, Red Hat, Ubuntu, not just Office programs, but uh, other POS systems and stuff like that. I have a vast technical knowledge of many programs when it comes to computers. I also have a hardware background where part of my technical background was putting together computers and fixing computers, identifying components, stuff like that.
Okay. Describe a time when you demonstrated a winning culture at your company.
Winning culture. By winning, I look at this as owning the brand or living the purpose of what your brand entails. That's kind of what I take in for winning culture. Here recently, my boss received an email about me from her boss, wanting her to congratulate me on living up to our brand at the company that I work for. I had a patron that came in that was a special needs person, and she had a lot of requests, and she heard that the company that I worked for was very respectful and went above and beyond when it came to those things. And she felt that she found that with me. I helped her to the best of my abilities. We got things worked out, and she left there very happy. I did not expect her to write an email or .commas as we call it, but she did, and it not only made it to my boss, but it made it to my boss's boss. And in situations like that, when your boss's boss tells you, "Hey, your employee is owning our brand," that makes you feel good.
Tell me about a time when working as a manager where you worked to develop an employee to move up within your company.
Being a manager, especially in the restaurant business, you have a lot of, I wouldn't say kids, but high school students and college students who are just starting out, who are trying to move forward with life and learning at the same time. So you're in their prime, in my opinion, when it comes to teaching somebody leadership. I can remember specifically a guy we had. It was shortly after I became a manager. He was just moving up to becoming an hourly manager. And he looked to me for guidance, and he would always ask me questions and stuff like that. And it made me feel good that I had somebody that looked to me as a role model that I could teach how to move forward with their life. I could teach how to grow within our company. He eventually ended up leaving the company, but the company he went to work for, he has done very well with, and is actually trying to move up into the managerial aspects of the company he's currently with.
All right. Describe a situation in which you found a creative way to overcome an obstacle in the studio.
Newscast studios. I can actually remember a few different times. I'm trying to think of one that just jumps out at me. But technical stuff in a newsroom, especially when you're doing live TV, can happen. It's how quickly you react to that, what you have on standby to take over in that aspect. For example, cameras crashing in the middle of it, audio going out, stuff like that. One of the biggest ones I can ever remember, there's a giant control board. We actually call it Master Control. Master Control controlled everything. Directors control boards, audio's control boards, cameras in the studio. I was senior Master Control operator. I controlled the Master Control board. We are actually sitting there in the morning doing a newscast, and my entire control board goes out and goes blank. I lost all power to it. Did not know what to do at the time. The director was franticing because we were actually in a 30-second slot to where the camera or nothing had to move, but my board had to be up and going within 30 seconds. Otherwise, we were just going to go blank and nothing was going to happen. In that 30 seconds time, I re-looped the control board to a pool next to it that actually was the computer that ran our commercial spots. And I ran the control board from a computer and did that all within 30 seconds. I was actually very proud of myself.
Okay, please share any experience you have in working with individuals from national backgrounds different from yours in the television industry.
Cultural backgrounds in television today is growing. We're getting people from other countries. When it comes to newscasts, especially the TV station that I was actually working for, we ran the local news, but we also did the local Spanish station. And so, being the master control operator, I actually did both newscasts. I did the English newscast and I did the Spanish newscast for Telemundo, our local Telemundo. It wasn't as major as the ones for the local. It was only like 2-minute slots that ran as commercials or within the normal Telemundo newscast. But it had a local news anchor girl, and I recorded her live. I recorded her, and we sent her newscasts via satellite to Telemundo directly. During that time, learning to work with her, learning Spanish, learning different cultures about where she came from, it was actually a delight for me to hear the things going on in other parts of the world while I'm also dealing with stuff going on in my part of the world was something that I look forward to from day to day.
Tell me about a time when you delegated a task or work in the studio that was not successful. What would you do differently next time?
Being in senior master control meant that I actually worked over. I had a team of 10 people that worked underneath me because master control ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, and of course, I can't be in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That also meant that we had one person in the studio overnight from about 1 o'clock in the morning till about 5 o'clock in the morning. So those 4 hours. And to be perfectly honest, the system was usually set to be run automatically. You didn't really have to do much between those. There were still some commercial spots that you would have to run, or there were a couple of, there were 2 shows that actually had to be aired locally during that time slot. But they were on tapes, and they were aired via tape. I remember on numerous occasions getting calls because, one, the tapes couldn't be found for the guy that was supposed to be airing them. But I remember in particular one time, I get a call frantic, and he tells me that he's on air and the machine is eating the tape that is currently playing on air. The decision I made may not have been the best decision, but it worked for the purposes that I needed it. I had him literally start a commercial right then and there, a commercial break. During that commercial break, I had him switch over to a paid programming show. That was my error. By having him move over to the paid programming show in a time slot that they didn't have to pay, I cost the company the money from the show that was originally airing. What I should have done instead was run a backup or a rerun of the same show that was previously airing. I didn't think of that at the time. I was just trying to solve the problem quickly as fast as I could. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was half asleep, in my defense. Is that it?
That's it.
That's all of
This
them.
concludes.
Okay, well, 15 minutes. I'll see y'all in class.